tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Christina Beasley, 460 Biggs Road, Biggs, Washington, North Carolina.
Thank
I am a North Carolinian, an environmental advocate, and a community member. I'm a member of the Pamlico-Albemarle Wildlife Conservationists, a chapter of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. I'm a member of the Friends of the Poquoson Lake National Wildlife Refuge, with a mission to advocate, protect, and conserve the wildlife in its habitat. I placed a petition to intervene for the proposed solar facility in the Terracea community, but at the request of Wilkeson Solar, I was denied. What is Wilkeson Solar trying to hide? How does my desire to protect the well-being of my family, friends, community, and environment not qualify as a sufficient interest in this case? I have passionate interest in the protection of the environment and its natural resources. I have passionate interest in families, communities, and life in all forms. We are part of the second largest estuary on the East Coast. Beaufort County itself is divided by the Pamlico River. The canals of Terracea empty into the Broad Creek Canal, which empties itself into the Punga River and into the greater Pamlico River. These canals were originally dug to remove enough water from the fertile land to allow farming. Terracea, as much of eastern North Carolina, is only 5 to 10 feet above sea level. My concern is chemical spillage in groundwater. I'm concerned that chemical substances and heavy metals in the solar panels will wash off and poison our drinking water supplies and estuary. I have a picture that shows the elevation of eastern North Carolina. Probably have to look more up close to see this. We have the right we have the right to know how this proposed solar facility will affect the Terracea community, our health, our livelihood, and the Pamlico River. Before you approve the CPCN for Wilkeson Solar, we plead for you to re-examine how its runoff will be controlled and how water quality will be protected in light of the new information revealed last month. I'm sure you are aware of the public outrage in Wilmington, North Carolina, as residents are currently being faced with contamination to their well water from upstream DuPont. Traces of Gen X runoff from traces of Gen X runoff have been found in their water sources. The North State Journal published an article last month on February 16th, confirming that certain perfluorinated compounds are used in the production of solar panels, just as discovered downstream from DuPont. The article quoted the EPA scientist responsible for this measurement of Gen X compound as saying the solar panels have the capacity to be sources of Gen X compounds. Senator Michael Lee of New Hanover County states, and I quote, "Water quality is not a political issue. It is a public health issue and a deeply personal issue to me." Commissioners, I suspect water quality is also an issue for you, your family, and your fellow North Carolinians. All I ask is that preliminary testing be performed so that we can assign liability if Gen X is found after these panels are installed. Let me assure you, if these panels lead to contamination of our groundwater after I have stood here to warn you, then liability will attach to those parties responsible. North Carolina Senate passed a bill that directs the state to tap into a network of scientific resources with the UNC system for investigating water quality and implications of the Gen X contamination of the Cape Fear River. The bill provides $2.4 million for the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality to devote to research into this contamination. Groundwater flows just like a river, never ending, never stopping. I understand the Commission does not address the environmental concerns or potential health hazards, but I urge you to keep in mind something integral to human life, which is water. Baseline testing should be performed prior to Wilkeson Solar being constructed. and periodic monitoring be performed following the best practices in the North Carolina general statutes that the North Carolina legislature put in place for oil and gas development. Groundwater regulations for this proposed solar facility should be held to the same standards as oil and gas. We have every right to expect the same protection for well monitoring as oil and gas. Who is going to be held responsible on the fallout? No one wants to be held responsible. The North Carolina Utilities Commission gives approval. So is the state held responsible? Will they be there to provide aid? They continue to provide for their fellow neighbors, those in the PJM transmission system. So I infer that the state itself will support its citizens. North Carolina meets and will continue to meet the NC Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Portfolio Standard. Wilkeson Solar will not serve any North Carolina citizens. All of its electric generation will be sold within the PJM transmission system north of our state. Why would North Carolina risk its water quality for electricity it will not use? The Beaufort County Commissioners have enacted a one-year moratorium to explore their role in solar facility advancement. The moratorium came into effect November 6, 2017. The citizens of Beaufort County have spoken and our county commissioners have listened. They are updating their solar ordinance to protect this county, halting project development. The moratorium prevents installation until November 6, 2018. National disasters are not unknown to Beaufort County. We experience hurricanes. We are in Tornado Alley. We do not want to experience the same effects as those in Puerto Rico after the last Hurricane Maria. These so-called indestructible panels are devastated by their exposure to Hurricane Maria. Here's an image. What chemicals are being released? How will this impact groundwater? Who pays when the panels are dislodged all over Terracea? In my communication with Beaufort County Emergency Director Chris Newkirk, there has not been any communication between Wilkeson Solar and Beaufort County Emergency Management. In fact, Mr. Newkirk states he does not have enough information to make an educated inference regarding possible fire and chemical threats. He states that his department has no jurisdiction over this project and must be invited in. He was unaware of the possible threat 422 lithium-ion batteries and a 5-acre substation may have upon eruption. An article by Scientific Report reveals that the eruption of lithium-ion batteries releases toxic gas and smoke emersions that are a larger threat than the fire itself. These gases are lethal. How will the community be protected? With no training or education on the possibility of a fire or toxic explosion from these solar panels or the substation, Beaufort County needs resources, training, and protection. The Pinetown Volunteer Fire Department will be the first to respond, and they deserve proper training. In what way is Wilkeson Solar acting as a good neighbor? This so-called once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for farmers is consequently a death knell for this community. Siblings have grown apart, sons have lied to mothers, and friends have become silent. Slowly and steadily for 8 years, April Montgomery and now Wilkeson Solar have spread the falsehood of wanting to be a good neighbor. By step, Wilkeson Solar has systematically silenced an entire community and its property owners. I too have been silenced as my petition to intervene has been denied, despite my interest in the community and its many assets. Mrs. Montgomery and Wilkeson Solar were assured success, knowing that most everyone would eventually succumb to their 30 pieces of silver. Despite their efforts, there are still several individuals who cannot be caught. In fact, they are willing to stand up and fight against a well-oiled machine. This short-term financial gain for a few will have long-term devastating effects for the generations to come. Submit to your conscience, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you to describe what you're showing.
This just shows that where Terracea is located in Pihatico, North Carolina, we're 5 to 10 feet above sea level. Sorry. I'm looking myself. I know where I am. Right here. and then
Go to-
5 to 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
May I see what the next?
Yes, sir, of course.
And could you describe what's going on in that?
This is just an image after Hurricane Maria where, I'll come closer. All the panels are dislodged from their racks
And this was taken where?
in Puerto Rico.
Thank you.
Can you show the side of the room also?